Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there is a ton of news stories to get into today. So let's talk about Impact Wrestling and let's talk about the Impact World Championship. Briefly, a couple of weeks ago, we spoke about the working relationship between AEW and Impact Wrestling. When will we going to see more of Impact on the AEW side of things? When are we going to see more of Impact World Championships being defended on Dynamite? When are we going to see more of tag titles being defended on Dynamite? When are we going to see more plugs for Impact from AEW? Because we always see, when it comes to Impact Wrestling, we always see AEW Dynamite on TNT Wednesday nights. We always see certain AEW wrestlers coming over, whether it's Frankie Kazarian, etc. in recent weeks. But when are we going to see more from, again, the other side of the fence? And wow, we got a big update about that last night on AEW Dynamite, because for the first time ever, the Impact World Championship is going to be defended on AEW television. This is a big deal because it was announced last night on AEW Dynamite that the Impact World Champion Kenny Omega will be defending the Impact World Championship against former Impact World Champion Christian Cage. Technically, he was the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, but that was when Impact had the NWA titles there. So I'm calling him a former Impact World Champion against a former Impact star, put it that way. Christian Cage on Friday night's AEW Rampage premiere episode in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Easy for me to say. Now, Christian Cage cut a promo last night on Dynamite where he said he was able to talk to Impact Wrestling Executive Vice President Scott D'Amore about getting the match. Now, of course, Christian Cage and Kenny Omega will also be meeting at AEW All Out on September 5th for the AEW World Championship as well. There are other title matches announced for the show, but man, oh man, what a big announcement this is, and certainly a really surprising one. And it does make you wonder what's going to happen Friday on Rampage. Could we really see a situation where Christian Cage wins the Impact World Championship? I mean, if you ask me to predict, do you really see Christian Cage winning the Impact World title on Friday? I would say no. But on the flip side of things, look, it's the premiere episode of Rampage on TNT. It's a big show, and I wouldn't be stunned. I really wouldn't be stunned. I think they're trying to, and I mentioned this in today's AEW news video, that the Christian Cage versus Kenny Omega match for AEW All Out, when they announced that last night, to say it got a mixed response would be a massive understatement, to be honest with you. The crowds, and I think social media and just fans in general, that just doesn't feel like a big enough match to be main eventing All Out on September 5th. Maybe it won't be the main event, but it doesn't feel big enough to be that World Championship match. And that's no slight against Christian Cage. It's really not. Kenny Omega versus Christian Cage, if you'd asked anyone at the beginning of the year, do you think we're going to see Kenny Omega versus Christian Cage? Everyone said no. First of all, Christian's retired. And if he does come back, he's coming back to WWE. He's not going to AEW. So this does feel like a bit of a dream match, but it doesn't feel big enough to be main eventing All Out for me. I think everyone wants to see Omega versus Hangman Page. That's probably going to happen at Full Gear now. I do think they will revisit it at some point. Hangman's reportedly off television because he's going to have to attend to the birth of his first child with his partner. I think because Hangman Page is so private that people have kind of forgotten that or not been aware of that situation. So that's why he's off television. But Cage versus Omega, whilst it is a big match, it feels like a TV main event to me. It feels like a match that should be main eventing Fyter Fest, Fight for the Fallen, Homecoming, whatever TV specials they do. That more feels like that should be there. And there's lots of different ways you can look at this. And I speculated earlier on in the AEW news video that maybe we could see a situation where plans can and will change between now and All Out. I could see a situation where Kenny Omega isn't actually facing Christian Cage at All Out. And maybe they change plans to whether that's CM Punk, or whether it's Bryan Danielson, whatever you want to call him, when he and they debut in AEW. So maybe plans can and will change, and maybe they'll begin to change Friday for Rampage. Or, and this is the kind of thing that's making me think that maybe the title could change hands on Friday night, is that everyone just feels it's inevitable that Christian Cage is going to lose to Kenny Omega at All Out. And it's very predictable. And I agree. I don't see any scenario where Christian Cage wins the AEW World Championship at All Out on September 5th. But if we saw a situation on Friday night on Rampage where Christian Cage clean defeated Kenny Omega, kill switch, middle of the ring, becomes the Impact World Champion, then it does raise a bit of doubt. It does raise the stakes, certainly for All Out in a couple of weeks' time, of Christian Cage has beaten him once before. Usually, I'm not one for beating champions. I don't think they should be beaten, because if you beat someone, you should take their title, right? It doesn't matter if it's non-title or not. So I theoretically could see a situation where Christian Cage becomes the Impact World Champion. I could. Now, I don't know. It must be stated, I don't know what the taping situation is right now with Impact Wrestling. I know that they're holding tapings. Is it next week they're holding tapings, I think? So theoretically as well, trying to do a bit of mental arithmetic here, trying to see how these schedules line up. Realistically, I suppose we could see a situation where Christian Cage wins the Impact World Championship on Friday, live on Rampage, and then he's at the next set of Impact Wrestling television tapings, which I think are next week, or I think are later on this week. The only issue, though, I suppose, with that is that we know the situation of tonight on Impact Wrestling on Access TV. There's going to be the number one contenders battle royal, and that person is scheduled to face Kenny Omega for the Impact World Championship at Impact Emergence, which they haven't taped yet. So I guess it could be a situation of when they're facing just the Impact World Champion at Impact Emergence. It's very complicated. It's very complicated, and I know a lot of people would say the Impact World Championship changing hands should happen on an Impact broadcast. It should happen with an Impact wrestler, and that's all very good. That's all a very good point. That's all a very, very good point, and it's true. I've said numerous times over and over again that the person they decide that is going to be in the spot to defeat Kenny Omega for the Impact World Championship is a massive spot, because it gets over that talent. It really solidifies that talent, whoever it may be, if it's Moose, if it's Josh Alexander, if it was Ace Austin, if it's whoever it is, whoever they decide that to be, it really establishes them as the top guy in Impact Wrestling, not just making them the Impact World Champion, but also making them the centerpiece of the company. You beat Kenny Omega. You beat one of the biggest and best pro wrestlers in the world today. You beat AEW's top star. That's a massive spot. For anyone, whoever is decided to be put in that spot, that's a massive, massive position to be put in. So I would probably lean to the side of that person to first defeat Kenny Omega for that Impact World Championship should be an Impact Wrestling guy, and should be on an Impact Wrestling broadcast. But then on the other side of it, you do have to look at that the Impact Wrestling ratings recently haven't been that great. When I say they haven't been that great, they've been really poor. Really, really poor. We're talking some of the lowest viewership figures they've done since they debuted on Access TV a couple of years ago. How do you counterbalance that? How do you overcome that? How do you get people interested in the product once again? How do you get people tuning in? Maybe you get people tuning in by doing a big World Championship change on a premiere episode of Rampage, which is going to get good viewers, certainly way, way more than Impact's going to get over the next couple of weeks. I mean, we don't know what those viewing figures are going to be like for Rampage. When it was a Friday night Dynamite on TNT, they weren't great, but a premiere episode, big title matches booked for the show, you know, possibly we could be looking at 6, 7, 8, 900,000 viewers. Dynamite on TNT on Wednesdays has been doing over 1 million for the last, 4 weeks. I don't know if they're going to crack 1 million for Rampage on Friday, but certainly it's going to be a big chunk of the audience. And I think maybe Impact might look at it as, if we do the title change there, hopefully if we get even a fraction of that viewership onto Impact on Access TV over the course of the next few weeks, that's very beneficial for us. It's then our job to keep those viewers that tune into Impact Wrestling. So that's certainly a way they could be looking at it. They could also be looking at it as Christian is a guy that's got a ton of history with Impact Wrestling, getting him to be back on the broadcast, even if it's for a couple of weeks. Because you could see a situation where it's Kenny Omega drops the Impact World Championship to Christian Cage on Friday on Rampage. That then turns their match at All Out into a title versus title match once again, which I think Omega would then win because Christian Cage isn't winning the AEW World Championship. It raises the stakes of the match at All Out and gets the Impact title back on Kenny Omega, to then he could eventually drop it to an Impact Wrestling talent at Bound for Glory in October, which I think is the plan. But for those intervening weeks, and at the latest set of Impact Wrestling television tapings that are due to take place next week or whenever they're due to take place, you could have 3 or 4 weeks, or I think 3 weeks roughly, of television where Christian Cage is the Impact World Champion, and you've got Christian Cage back on Impact Wrestling television. You can have Christian Cage versus some Impact Wrestling talents at the latest set of TV tapings. That would be exciting, and that would maybe draw ratings and maybe draw viewership for Impact Wrestling too. So there are pros and cons. There are pros and cons. I think eventually the end goal will be, as I think it probably always has been, that Kenny Omega will drop the Impact World Championship at Bound for Glory to maybe a Josh Alexander, maybe a Moose. I'm still not too sure on who his opponent would be. I still think that's the end goal, but I wouldn't be stunned. I really wouldn't be stunned if we have a little bit of a diversion here. And Friday night on Rampage, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if Christian Cage actually, in reality, won the Impact World Championship and comes home to Impact Wrestling, has a bit of a cameo there for a couple of weeks as the champion, and then eventually drops the championship back to Kenny Omega at All Out. I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if they went in that direction. Now, obviously, like I said, the other scenario could be that Kenny Omega retains on Friday. Whilst he retains, he kind of takes Christian Cage out of their match at All Out, and Kenny Omega faces someone else at All Out. And I wouldn't be, in the same vein that I wouldn't be surprised if a title changed hands on Friday to go to Christian, I wouldn't be surprised if that other scenario happened as well. Because again, my philosophy would be, why would you give the match of Kenny Omega versus Christian Cage away on free TV when in 3 weeks' time you're asking the audience to pay for it? The only way you can ask the audience to legitimately pay for it is if you're offering something different, if you've raised the stakes. Those stakes would be that it's a title versus title match. There's two titles on the line as opposed to one. And last time Christian Cage defeated Kenny Omega. That's the only way I think they can sell it. Otherwise, it just seems very backwards to me that you would have the match on free TV. I get it, it's a premiere episode, but you're having the match on free TV and in a couple of weeks you should pay for it. Well, why should I pay for it? You told me a couple of weeks ago it was free. I watched it for free and I don't care to watch it again. You know, that kind of stuff, I don't really get that philosophy. So it's interesting, and I think it's a big spot for Impact. I think finally, and Scott D'Amore was there last night. We'll talk about, he actually appeared on camera on Dynamite as well during the tag title match. But I think it's about time. I think Impact Wrestling fans have been asking for more leverage when it comes to AEW promoting Impact Wrestling more. Now, we didn't really get Impact Wrestling, adverts on the show or advertisements, but that is, I guess, as close as we're probably going to get. You know, that we've got an Impact World title match on Friday on a premiere episode of Rampage on TNT. We had an Impact Tag Team title match last night as well. Scott D'Amore, an Impact Wrestling Executive Vice President, was on commentary as well. That's pretty good plugs. That's pretty good plugs. Now, they didn't explicitly say Thursday, Impact Wrestling on Access TV. Maybe they can't. I don't know. But I'm glad to see more of an Impact involvement on the show for AEW, because I think that's really the benefit. That's really, truly the benefit of having this working relationship with AEW. Obviously, you get the talents like Kenny Omega, like Frankie Kazarian, like Matt Hardy, Private Party, etc. But the real true benefit is the plugs and the attention that it gets Impact Wrestling. And that's what benefited them when the relationship first started. And that's what they're hoping for now. So it's fascinating, and we'll be doing, I think I'm going to do a Rampage post show on Friday as well. So if you are fascinated to see what happens when it comes to this Impact World Championship, we'll be going live on YouTube after the show. So we can talk about things in the world of Impact Wrestling on Friday night as well. So be sure to join me there. But as I mentioned, it wasn't the only Impact Wrestling involvement on the show, because the Good Brothers retained their Impact Tag Team Championships last night on AEW Dynamite, because the Good Brothers took on Evil Uno and Stu Grayson of the Dark Order during the broadcast. Now, the bout, of course, was a historic one, as Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows defended the Impact World Tag Team Championships on AEW's flagship show, the first time that this has happened. Now, it was a really good match, actually. I thought it was way better than I thought it was going to be. The Good Brothers emerged victorious, but the Dark Order put up a valiant effort in a wild match between the two of the top tag teams in both combined companies. The Good Brothers often bent the rules in their favor to control the bout, but at various points, the remarkable chemistry between Uno and Grayson nearly produced an upset victory for the AEW tag team. Towards the end of the match, things began to break down after a belly-to-belly suplex on Anderson sent him flying into Gallows, but unfortunately, the Dark Order was unable to capitalize. After the match broke down even further, the Good Brothers clinched the victory after hitting the Magic Killer on Stu Grayson. I hope to see a rematch of this inside of an Impact Wrestling ring. I think that would be a lot of fun. Again, the tapings are coming up soon, so I wouldn't be surprised if we did see a rematch of the Dark Order appearing on Impact. And again, I think that's good for Impact Wrestling. I think both teams had great chemistry. As someone that covers an Impact Wrestling a lot and talks about Impact Wrestling a lot here on the channel, again, really enjoyed to see Impact's influence on this show, because as you can see in the image there, You've got Impact Wrestling talents, Doc Gallows, Kyle Anderson holding up the Impact Tag Team titles, but also you had Impact Wrestling official Brian Hebner was calling the match. And Brian Hebner, for me, is a great referee, a real great referee, one of the best out there. And sometimes the officiating in AEW leaves a lot to be desired, not just in terms of, I get the referee's job's difficult, but sometimes in certain matches it's just outrageous. It's so bad. Rick Knox is the worst for it, honestly. Sometimes he just throws his hands up, I can't be bothered. It really does look like that. So Brian Hebner, was great to see that there. So there's little things like that. It was an Impact Wrestling sanctioned bout. So you had an Impact Wrestling referee. You had Scott D'Amore on commentary doing his best to hype up the match, hype up Impact Wrestling, hype up watching Impact on Thursdays. I don't think he actively said watch it on Access TV. But it doesn't matter if he did or didn't, to be honest with you, because hardly anyone has Access TV. That's part of the problem with the ratings recently when it comes to Impact on Access TV. But I don't know if we're going to see a rematch when it comes to this. I hope so. I like the idea of kicking off these kind of storylines on AEW television and letting it bleed over to Impact Wrestling. When it comes to the Dark Order, obviously when they had their match against the Elite a couple of weeks ago, part of the stipulation was that they were never going to get an opportunity at the AEW World Tag Team Championships again. So that's not happening. So realistically, they can only really go after the Impact Tag Team Championship. So surely it would be within their best interest to begin pursuing it even more. Even though they lost the match last night, I think the crowds inside the Impact Zone in Nashville would really enjoy seeing AEW Tag Team of the Dark Order show up. I think that we've seen this before when Frankie Kazarian, the Elite Hunter, was attacking the Elite and the likes of Gallows and Anderson on an AEW broadcast. That eventually led to him showing up on an Impact Wrestling broadcast once again. So I think certainly we could see a situation where the Dark Order do show up in Impact Wrestling going forwards. I wouldn't be opposed to having this match. Bound for Glory is maybe a bit too far away. We are still in August. We'll be talking about rest of August, September, October, 3 months. But in terms of Impact Emergence that's coming up, I'd love to see Impact Emergence have the Good Brothers versus the Dark Order once again. I think that'd be a great match. I really, truly enjoyed the match last night. The crowd did. I think it's probably one of the better matches in terms of a tag team match, a standard tag team match that the Good Brothers have had in a while. And the Good Brothers, they're everywhere at the moment. They're on Impact TV. They're on AEW TV. They're on New Japan. They're having success on New Japan as well in the tag tournament there. So I'm not opposed to seeing this feud over again, and I think this is a good use of the Good Brothers on Impact Wrestling on AEW television rather, and hopefully it does bleed over back to Impact Wrestling too. Now, finally, I do want to talk about Kiera Hogan. Now, I mentioned previously when we talked about Kiera Hogan's departure from Impact Wrestling that I thought the most likely destination for her was AEW. And wouldn't you know it, Kiera Hogan has made her debut inside of an AEW ring because former Impact Wrestling Knockouts Tag Team Champion Kiera Hogan wrestled before last night's AEW Dynamite taping for Monday's AEW Dark Elevation episode that is going to be aired next Monday on YouTube. Now, Kiera Hogan went up against former AEW Women's World Champion Hikaru Shida. Now, last month, of course, Kiera Hogan announced that she had finished up with Impact Wrestling's at their tapings in Nashville. She mentioned that she had left and she was basically exploring what was out there right now. Previously, she had signed a multi-year deal with Impact Wrestling in 2019. She went on to win the Knockouts Tag Team Championships twice with her Fire and Flavor tag team partner Tasha Steelz, but of course, they have now split up. I mentioned at the time that I thought Kiera Hogan's most likely destination would be AEW. The reason I said that is because I just there was no chance she was going to WWE. That just wasn't happening. Not just because WWE just isn't really hiring right now, but also there's a lot of heat there, especially with her and Sasha Banks. They've certainly, Kiera Hogan said a lot of things about Sasha Banks on social media. We've covered it here on the channel a couple of times, so check it out. So that just wasn't going to happen. When it came to AEW, I thought it was most likely because whilst you do have other companies that have their women's division, of course, Ring of Honor are setting up their women's division too. Her partner in real life is Diamante, who is part of the AEW roster. And considering that Diamante previously was tagging up with Eva Lise before she was released by AEW due to her behavioral issues, she's in need of a tag team partner, so why not merge storyline and real life together and make Kiera Hogan Diamante's tag team partner? So I thought that was always the case of being the most likely destination. It's a good pickup. It's a good pickup by AEW. I've been critical several times of AEW's women's division, the lack of booking, the poor booking sometimes of AEW's women's division, but credit to them. Rampage, the premiere episode on Friday, is being main evented by the Women's World Champion Britt Baker versus Red Velvet for the AEW Women's World Championship. Can't complain about that. I mean, I can't complain. It's going to be a great match. I think it's going to be, well, a good match. Great atmosphere and ovation for Britt Baker in her hometown. So I think AEW, at least they're trying, right? At least they're trying to establish a more credible women's division. And I think Kiera Hogan goes away to do that. So that's where Kiera Hogan's heading up. And again, I predicted it, and I don't think it's totally surprising. But look, guys, as always, it's just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on all these Impact Wrestling news stories we've spoken about today? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about Impact Wrestling, AEW, WWE, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved in the community. Drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube. Got the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestling News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or having come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.